In the weeks that followed, as we reconciled and our lives returned to normal, I thought a lot about what had happened. And although I was willing to forgive her for having an affair with another man on an annual date, the fact that she had knowingly allowed him to impregnate her made me sick to my stomach. I decided to send her to a psychiatrist and told her about it to see if he could determine the reason for her actions. At first she agreed, but I was never able to get her to make an appointment with a psychiatrist, and the subject just fizzled out. However, I did not forget about it and tried to analyze her behavior myself. In my opinion, what she was doing indicated dangerous behavioral quirks and character flaws that could lie dormant, but would return someday. The fact that she didn't want to see a psychiatrist about it indicated that she knew about it and didn't want to bring it out in the open. This meant that she knew she would do something similar someday. However, the fact that she had been caught the first time meant that she would be much more cunning the second time around. I was determined to do everything I could to make sure that such an incident didn't happen again, or at least that it didn't happen while the kids were small. Jen was a loving mother and really cared about the kids, and they needed her. In any custody battle over the kids, she would likely prove to be the stronger parent. So I needed to address the problem from several angles. First, I went to talk to an attorney about it. I had heard about prenuptial agreements. What about a prenuptial agreement, or a contract between people who are already married that would formally establish a financial agreement regarding the assets of our marriage? The lawyer said that a contract could be drawn up that would cancel all obligations arising out of the marriage. I told him what I wanted, and he said he would draft a contract that would financially penalize Jen if she committed adultery again. Second, I thought about improving the electronic monitoring of her. But with the current situation in the house, she wouldn't want to upset the apple crate too soon. It could be several years before a situation arises that could trigger another cheating spree on her part. Besides, I would have had to listen to hours every day to recordings of her daily activities made with listening devices and wiretaps. No, I waited and watched for anything that disrupted her routine before starting another round of surveillance. I knew that next time she would be much more cautious, and it would take an unusual and expensive system to catch her. Nevertheless, I had set up a special fund to be able to expand the system and hire detectives without her knowledge if necessary. Normally, she would let me handle our finances, but in the past I had kept her informed of what was going on in that area in case something happened to me. So I planned to continue with my normal business, but not inform her of the special fund. Third, I insisted that we go to marriage counseling to try to improve our marital skills. I needed to reaffirm that I had done everything I could to make our marriage strong. Fourth, I began to expand my role as our children's caregiver. Perhaps someday I would have to prove to a judge that I was as involved in parenting as Jen was. For now, she had the upper hand on this issue because she was a stay-at-home mom. Later, when the kids went to school, I would advise her to go back to work so she could stay home alone less. She had a bachelor's degree in library science, so it wouldn't be hard for her to find a meaningful part-time job that could be increased to full-time when the kids were older. Besides, I figured a library would be good in her case too, since she wouldn't be able to date a lot of men. Finally, I decided that we would have more time to ourselves if we went away occasionally for weekends, where I would try to renew our marriage and our love for each other. I was willing to do whatever it took to keep the family together, but I also planned for the worst-case scenario. A week after meeting with the attorney about the prenuptial agreement, I received a call saying that he had a draft ready and wanted to discuss it with me. I took a few hours of personal time at work and drove to his office. The agreement was pretty simple and contained mostly the items I had asked him to include. Basically, it obligated us to remain faithful to each other without any adultery, or else the adulterer would be divorced and lose all financial interests in the marital estate. This contractual obligation expired when our youngest child turned 21. Thereafter, any divorce would be based on a 50-50 division of property. Of course, if a divorce due to adultery occurred before that date, The parent who obtained custody of the children would receive child support from the other parent until they reached the age of 21. Voluntary sexual contact between a man and a woman was considered adultery. Kissing was excluded. I took a copy of the agreement, met with Jen that evening, and explained why I needed the agreement. She was a little shocked, but when I told her that it would help me trust her again, she reluctantly agreed to sign it. She really had no choice, as refusing to sign the agreement would have taken our marriage back to the time I imposed the terms on her. Refusing to sign could also have been interpreted as a sign that she was planning to be unfaithful again. We agreed to meet at our attorney's office the next morning to have our signatures notarized. The morning after signing, I took Jen to a restaurant and we had coffee. She was quiet and reserved as we sat at the table. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I've been thinking about how all of this could have been avoided if I hadn't chosen a rash path. I don't know why I did it. It's like something clicked and I was captured by the intrigue and lust of our meeting." "Well, hopefully we'll both have to be very careful in the future not to jeopardize our marriage." Since I was as vulnerable as Jan was in this situation, I realized that I would have to be very careful not to find myself in a compromising situation for the next 18 years. That night, we made passionate love together. I felt somewhat relieved that we had passed this milestone in our new relationship and were now ready to enter into a new marriage. Time passed, as it always does, and we became a happy family again. Jen and I enjoyed an active sex life with a loving passion, interspersed with weekends spent alone to savor our newfound love away from parental responsibilities. Our parents provided the necessary babysitting services. They were more than happy to play the role of caring grandparents. Throughout the year, we went to marriage counseling, cleared the rubble in our relationship, and moved on. I tried to take a more active role in raising our two children, reading to them at bedtime, playing ball and other games with them, and supporting Jen in her parenting responsibilities. From time to time, I checked the tape recorder and her cell phone records to make sure there were no strange messages and monitored her credit card usage, but never found anything criminal. After Sean, the youngest, went to school, she took a part-time job at the local library, which allowed her to be available when the kids came home from school. That worked fine for a few years, until the kids went to middle school, and when a full-time position became available at the library, she accepted. Meanwhile, I was advancing in my career, and the two of us were saving quite a bit of money for the kids' college tuition. Also, the kids were doing well academically, so we could count on one or both of them getting a scholarship. I brought up the idea with Jen that we could go on a cruise for our wedding anniversary the following year. She was enthusiastic about it, and we started planning the trip. About the same time, Jen announced that the library wanted to send her to Chicago for a seminar on computerized library systems and told me, "Jim, I really need to go. My job requires it if I want to qualify for Sue's position when she retires next year." Sue was the head librarian. "I don't see any reason to say no. When will that be?" That was it. Should I trust her? It had been 12 years since her first novel, and I hadn't found anything since then to distrust her. "It's scheduled to start 3 weeks from Tuesday and run through Friday." "Okay, let me join you on Friday and we'll spend the weekend in Chicago." "Oh, honey, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for trusting me and letting me go." "You've earned my trust over the last 12 years, Jen. I love you more today than I did when we were married." Her face lit up and she leaned in to kiss me passionately. "Oh, my darling, I love you very much too." We made love very passionately that night, but in the back of my mind I wondered how much I trusted her. My special fund was already over $50,000, and I decided I could afford some confidence. So I contacted the investigator in Chicago who had caught Jen's previous indiscretion and asked him to set up unobtrusive surveillance on her while she was at the seminar. Subsequently, surveillance of her actions at the seminar revealed no new indiscretions, and we spent an enjoyable weekend together after the seminar. The following year, when Sue retired, Jan was offered the position of head librarian. I was very proud of her, but the new job now required her to travel and attend town meetings. I was cautious, as I felt that if she was going to do something, she had every opportunity to do it now. I began checking the house wiretaps and her cell phone records more frequently, but found nothing. After almost a year of her new job, I began to sense that something was not right between us. In addition, the meetings around town became more frequent. After living with someone for almost 20 years, you can tell exactly when your partner is sick, worried about something, or just acting a little unnatural. Suddenly, it was clear that this was the case. I caught a very subtle hunch that something wasn't quite right. Our sex life was still good, but she seemed more interested in other sex. Once in a while, we used whipped cream in our sexual games, but it seemed to be more frequent, especially after her encounters in town. I agreed with her, believing it added a new level of excitement to our lovemaking, but anything that was even slightly unusual made me suspicious. I'd spent years preparing for this, not wanting to be caught off guard again, so I figured I'd better follow up on my suspicions. She might just be preparing a surprise party for my birthday, but I decided to check anyway. To follow up with her, I'd really have to start digging into the special fund. I knew that if she had another affair, I would be extremely careful since she had so much to lose. I contacted a local private investigator who had been recommended to me by an investigator in Chicago, and he told me that electronic surveillance systems had advanced to the point where the size, range, and sensitivity of the new audio and video systems were unheard of even 12 years ago. He then told me what it would take to create a full-scale electronic surveillance system. He would need private access to the house, her car, her purse, her library study, and her briefcase. There was no problem with the car, as I had once switched cars with her under the pretense that it was time for an oil change, and I would drop it off in the morning and pick it up in the evening at a place near my work. We'd done this before, so Jen didn't suspect a thing. He installed audio and video devices and a locator to track her via GPS. Her purse was a little more complicated, but once, when she was sunbathing by the pool, the investigator slipped inside and put a tiny audio listening device in her wallet. Even if she changed purses, she always had her wallet with her. At the same time, he was going through her briefcase in my office with special tools he had brought with him. Before he left, he quickly checked the audio devices and made sure the signal strength was adequate up to a quarter-mile away. Each audio device was tuned to a different frequency, so that if there was interference on one, he could connect to the other. He had also installed his own listening device and tiny video cameras in the bedrooms and family room. He entered the library disguised as an insurance inspector, while she was in a meeting, and installed audio and video devices in her office and workroom. Then all I had to do was try to act normal and wait. About a week after the surveillance began, the investigator reported that he had discovered a connection between my wife and a male colleague at the city's main library. This time I was not surprised and had no emotion compared to when I found out about her first affair. He told me that she had attended the meeting at the Central Library twice that week, and both times they had gone across the street to a hotel for an hour or so, but he had managed to get the audio tape out of her purse. On the first meeting, he had no video or audio equipment in his room, but on the second visit, he had the room ready and paid a porter to take them there. The dates of their meetings coincided with the nights she asked me to put cream on her body. I asked him to keep sending me copies of the videotapes and to continue the surveillance. I needed proof that this was not just a one-night stand. When the DVD arrived from the investigator, I went to my room, plugged it into my laptop, and watched her make love to another man again. The next week, they switched hotels, but the investigator noted the time and date in his report and got the audio. I let it go on for another 2 weeks, but I didn't feel like going down on her anymore. I told her that something was wrong with me and that I would be sleeping in the spare room for a while. She was shocked, and I think that's when she realized it was over. The investigator also had a recording of a phone conversation between Jen and her sister Carla, which was very interesting. Carla, how is your personal life going? Jen, it's going great. Double sex is very exciting. Carla, you know you're screwed if Jim finds out. Jen, I'm very careful. He won't find out. Carla, just be careful. I think you should see a psychiatrist. You have everything a woman could ever dream of. Marriage, family, a job. It's all gone if you get caught. I would never do that to Bob again. Jen, you're just an old stick in the mud. You'll be fine. Carla, what about your kids? Jen, they're fine. They help me keep Jim in line. If he slept with someone else, I'd take his money and the kids. Really? They keep me from having a proper lifestyle. Carla, I think you're crazy, Jen. I have to go now. We'll talk later. Jen, bye. We continued to live together, but she had a premonition that something was about to happen. She refused to meet me downtown, suddenly became withdrawn, and would no longer meet my eyes. We had a family barbecue planned for the following weekend that her parents, mine, and our siblings were to attend. I decided now was the time to break the news to the world. I wanted revenge. That week, I had to do a lot of running around town getting ready for the weekend. It was like Jan had turned into a sullen, withdrawn person. I didn't feel sorry for her. After talking to Sam, he updated and filed the old divorce papers. I got copies to hand to Jan at the family reunion. Taking care of our bank accounts, credit cards, insurance, and other marital assets seemed like old home week to me. I've done this before, so it went very quickly. I also updated an old website I had stored on my computer at work and posted it. When Saturday came, Jan stayed in bed until noon while I did the party preparations. While Jan slept, I went to our church and posted the website on the bulletin board under the heading Jan Morris's Indiscretion. Around 1 o'clock, the relatives started to move in, but Jan didn't come downstairs. She knew what was about to happen. Carla went up to talk to her, and when she came down a few minutes later, she was white and seemed to be in shock. Walking over to me, she asked, "Jim, you're not going to do what I think you're going to do, are you?" "I sure as hell am going to. You said it yourself, Carla. She's dead." I turned and shouted to the noisy crowd, "All adults may proceed to the family room. I have a little show and tell for you." "Please, Jim, don't do this. It will kill her." She was warned and warned that her life would be over if she did it again. It's over now. I told her and followed the family into the house, where I explained what Jan had done, showed them abridged versions of the videos, and let them listen to the audio recordings. After my presentation, the family meeting didn't last long. Carla didn't bother to watch it. She left to be with her sister. Her parents were in shock, and her mom had to help her to the car. Her dad didn't look good either. My parents were crying, and my brothers and their wives were in shock. When everyone had left except Bob and Carla, I asked them to come upstairs with me and look at Jen. We found her still lying on the bed crying. "Jen," I said in a soft voice. "Sit down, please. Bob and Carla are here." Maybe she thought my soft voice was saying that I had forgiven her and wanted reconciliation, but when she looked up with the rudiments of a smile on her face, I smirked, handed her the divorce filing notice, and, "Here you go, you bitchy, lecherous bitch. Have fun for the rest of your life with no marriage and no kids. I'm giving you 1 hour to pack your things and get cleaned up. All further contact with me will be through my attorney." "Oh my God, Jim!" Carla exclaimed. "Haven't you done enough today?" "I guess you're right, Carla. I'll wait until Monday when I'll contact the library board and let them know what their 2 employees have been up to. I'm sure they'll have something to tell me. I also plan to file a lawsuit against her friend." Jen let out a grief-stricken cry and dropped her head to the bed, still clutching the papers I handed her. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry, so sorry." "You only have 55 minutes left, Jen. You'd better get ready. Anything you can't carry now can wait until after the property is finalized." I turned and headed down the stairs, and my brother-in-law Bob followed me. "I know you're angry, Jim, but aren't you being too hard on Jan?" Bob asked as we sat in the kitchen drinking coffee. She humiliates and cuckolds me too often. I think that's what she's fixated on, my humiliation. How humiliating is it for me to have my wife deliberately get another man pregnant? No, I don't think I'm being too hard on her. She had absolutely no respect for me and got the humiliation and punishment she deserved. The sooner she is out of my life, the sooner I can move on with my life. I've wasted enough time on that woman. Okay. I think you have a valid point. I'm going to be listening to Carla on this for a long time to come. I'm sorry about that. You're lucky Carla survived her first affair. Yeah, we've had a pretty solid marriage since then. But what about Ryan and Sean? Your children will be affected. Have you thought about talking to them? They're in their room right now. As soon as Jen leaves, I'll go up and talk to them. Well, good luck, Jim. Carla will never let me talk to you again, so I wish you luck. And we shook hands. About that time, Carla and Jen came down the stairs and headed for the exit without looking in my direction. Jen lowered her head, continuing to sob. Before walking out the door, Carla turned and said, "Bob, would you be a dear and take the bags to the bedroom?" Bob turned and headed for the stairs. "I'll help you," I told him. When they left, I went back upstairs to do the hardest thing I'd ever had to do. Tell my sons about their mother and our marriage. I hoped they would understand and forgive me.